sato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritam gamaya avirmaedhi rudrayate dakshinangamukam te namam pahi nityam. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Let us sit quietly a few moments and meditate on the Supreme Spirit in any way we please. Bhadrang karnebhi shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistushtuvagam sastanubhihi Yashema devahitai yadayuhu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we enjoy with strong limbs and bodies the life allotted to us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. This being the last lecture before the summer recess, traditionally it is devoted to Swami Vivekananda. And the topic this morning, Swami Vivekananda, a modern message for modern times. So first we should find out what we consider to be modern times, what characterizes modern times. And of course, we could list all of these things, but in just in general categories, what is it that you would say characterizes this age rather than previous ages? And of course, it seems brilliantly obvious how many things have changed and how much development there has been in various spheres, and at the same time, how little development there's been in other spheres. I mean, when we characterize modern times, we generally think of it in a very positive way. These are glorious times. So many things are possible now which were not possible before, and so forth. That is, those things are all true. But in order to be objective about it, we also have to recognize the negative side of it. That, for instance, the 20th century was probably in terms of magnitude of loss of life, was probably one of the worst times in the history of mankind. We were able to hone up to a fine degree our ability to kill each other, and this was done with great intensity. And the 21st century also has problems of that sort. But that is not really how we want to put it. No period of history can be looked at only by its negative side. So, what would we say characterizes modern times? One definite thing is that there's been a radical transformation in the concepts of space and time. We generally say that this world consists of space, time, causation, name, and form. Those are the five elements. If you wanted to characterize life, existence on this planet in the briefest possible way, you could conceive of it as consisting of these things: space, time, and causation, and name and form, as categories, as entities characterizing human existence in general. Now, of course, as far as space and time are concerned, there have been brilliant developments, so that now we're in total communication, or we can be in total communication with everyone, everywhere, all the time. It used to be you could get away. Oh, I'll get away. I'll go to my hideaway. There's no hideaway anymore. Everything has been transformed by all the things that we've invented. Instantaneous communications. You can communicate with anyone, anywhere, anytime, provided the electricity doesn't shut off. So these are things on the surface of things, on the surface of life. There's been so much change. Outer space, which once was thought to be, was not even known to be outer space. It was thought to be spheres on which these stars and planets were hung, and just spheres surrounding the earth. The idea of the vastness of space did not originate initially. It took a long time to develop. So outer space, I mean, now we understand that what we call distance between one point and another, it reaches into a huge number of light years, which is the speed, which is a distance that light at its speed of 186,300 miles per second, light would take years to go from point A to point B. And we now can look with great intensity and with great accuracy, untold light years into space. And because we were, we were unhappy because the atmosphere of the earth distorts some of these sightings. Oh, that's fine, no problem at all. We design a rocket and we send a telescope out into space. Oh, but nobody can live out there. How can we do our observations? Oh, we'll do it all by sending images back to Earth. Nothing is a problem for us anymore in the physical and in the psychological realms. Nothing is a problem. We are sending spaceships to the farthest planets. In fact, planets or supposed heavenly bodies that are so far away you can't really even see them from the Earth to any extent. So space is no problem anymore. And all the limits of space to which we can reach are so fantastic that we need not think at this point of anything further. So you could say that problem is basically solved. Time is another factor. How has time been changed? Everything is, nowadays, is instantaneous. It doesn't take any time for anything. Everything moves at the speed of light. So all these frontiers, the separations in space and time, are no longer there. Someone called yesterday from India, and at first, one could be confused. What, is this person in the next room or what? It's so clear, so precise. I remember not too long ago, when you talked overseas, you would say a sentence and then you would hear that sentence repeated. And then you could go on to the next sentence. Otherwise, if you kept on talking, you'd be talking over your own voice after a while. They couldn't send everything simultaneously in both directions. One person could speak and the other one couldn't. I even remember the telephone that you had to hold like this, and you talk into the microphone in front of you, and you have to crank well, all those things, we laugh at them now because everything is so... Oh, and we used to think that Dick Tracy, I don't know if any of you ever saw, or probably that really dates me, but Dick Tracy, the cartoon, he was a detective, and the most magnificent thing he had, absolutely unbelievable in those days, we couldn't imagine it, was a wrist radio, so that he could talk to anyone, just by connecting with his wrist radio. That was considered beyond belief. So space and time, no problem. We've gone so far ahead, and there are quantum computers and whatnot that promise even more incredible developments. There used to be a computer, again, that dates me frightfully, I'm afraid, but we used to have these IBM cards. That was the punch cards about this size with holes punched in them, and they would go over a series, I guess it was a series of metal fingers that would read what the punched holes in the cards said, and there was one stack of cards for the program, what calculations you wanted the computer to run, and then there was a stack of cards for the data. And then we would write these Fortran programs, and we were so proud of ourselves. This is really something fantastic. Well, now, I mean, you can't even imagine the sorts of numbers that people are talking about. The instantaneous communication. If something happens at point A in the world, immediately the whole world knows about it. So these are things that constitute modernity. The topic is Swami Vivekananda, a modern message for modern times. So what are these modern times as compared to non-modern times? So that is that's the scene on which action takes place. And then, all these things are immediately available. Everyone can be within instantaneous reach of anyone else, anywhere. Instantaneous control of everything. We can control things now from your cell phone. You can control whatever happens in your own house, even if it's thousands of miles away. So control, we have. Space and time basically have been conquered. But what is it that still remains? Is there anything that still remains? We can go on like this and it'll be wonderful. No, the point is there is something called an end. Things don't just go on for each one of us. Things end after a certain time. And what happens after the end? That was Nachiketas' problem in the Katha Upanishad. Everything is fine. Death, Yama was offering him all these things that we have today. Yama was offering to Nachiketas in the Katha Upanishad. All these things, chariots and horses and music and songs and dance, everything that we scramble for today, that was offered to Nachiketas. And he said, no, I don't want this. What does he want? When a person dies, there is this opinion. Some say that this person continues to live, and others say that this person does not live anymore. So the question is death the end? And that question, so Nachiketas refused all of these things. Maybe he didn't refuse them, but he didn't particularly ask for them. This is our condition. We need not refuse these things that modern life provides, But the point is, that is not everything. There is something that modern life in the exterior sense does not provide, and that is the same question that Nachiketas asked probably 6,000 years ago. What happens to a person when that person is no longer here, when that person dies? What happens to that person? Some say that this person continues to live, and others say, no, he does not continue to live. He disappears, he dies. And the rest of the Upanishad is a discussion of the reality of things here. So, Swami Vivekananda, the Katha Upanishad was one of his favorite scriptures. He used to quote from it a lot. And it brings into focus what it is that we need to do to overcome or to go beyond our present state. I mean, the idea of instant messaging, email, social media, which means graphic images simultaneously available everywhere, all these things are definitely not giving answers to these basic questions. The time interval between events has been reduced to zero. We have conquered time. The space interval between things has been reduced to zero. We've conquered space. We can now look at things which are 10 to the minus 9 centimeters, which is an unbelievable, inexpressibly small number. But that's nothing for us. We can look at molecules. We can look at the effects of atoms. We may not be able to see the atom fully, but we can see how even on the tiniest scale we're on the way to conquering the tiny, the infinitesimal. We're on the way to conquering that, forging full speed ahead. We are on the way to conquering the infinite. I mean, the physically infinite. As far as we can, we are sending probes outside the solar system. And that's just a prelude. It'll go on. We can go farther, higher, better, deeper, whatever we want. All the oceans present no problems anymore. The mountains present no problems. Everything has been conquered of a physical nature. Even psychologically, so many things have been learned. But what is it, what is it that has not been conquered? We're trying to, even space-time causation are the three characteristics. Causation, also we are forging ahead. We're trying to, there's a relentless drive to understand, to probe, to study, and by understanding to control. And then the problem comes, by controlling profit. We want something out of all of this. So to understand is one thing, to control is another, and to profit from all that as being the motive power behind it is a third aspect. Anyway, this is what characterizes modern times. The title being Swami Vivekananda, a modern message for modern times. So what is it that we yet need? We need what Nachiketas asked for. What happens? What is the fundamental truth of our life? After we pass away, in other words, after all this space-time causation, after all of this vanishes from our life, what is it that is left? Is there anything else? Or are we simply physical and psychological beings? Is there anything else? So, of course, religion says no, there is something else. There's the spirit. So, in addition to space, time, and causation, all of this is interpenetrated by a spirit, by a reality, by something which does not die. That is our goal. Our goal is to find something which does not perish. And the question is there such a thing, and can we reach it? Is it possible for us to actually experience it? Now, so this is the world that Swami Vivekananda came to. He came to the United States in 1893, and he discovered, this was the time of the Columbian Exposition, where all the wonders of modernity were displayed, and Swamiji was highly impressed by all of that. But he saw that one very basic question remained. And so we now have to ask, what is Swami Vivekananda's message for these times, a modern message for modern times? So for these times, what is the message that he gave? He once said that he could foresee the next period of the world's history clearly before him. He mentioned something like 1,500 years or whatever, but we don't have to argue about the exact amount. He definitely foresaw the trend of things. All of us can see this. We can all see how things are progressing, how things are shaping up, how this world is developing. And we can extrapolate that for a certain distance. We can all do that. For the approximate future, yes, we can give an estimate. Yes, these are the trends of modern life. You could easily see how they could play out, how they could clash against each other, how they could be resolved. But our general observation is not informed by this spiritual realization. If it is, if we reach that state, then our viewpoint will be different. For Swami Vivekananda, who had under Sri Ramakrishna's tutelage, had experienced the totality, the highest reality, the Brahman or the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the experience in which everything is revealed, in which the totality is understood. So from his standpoint, what were the things that he recommended for this age? And he saw its problems very clearly, even in his day when a lot of these things that we now are faced with were not there. He said, for instance, that within 50 years, that Europe was sitting on a volcano. Within 50 years it would explode unless some spiritual development took place on a large scale in that area. And of course this was 1893 to 96, and in 1914 all of Europe exploded. And in 1939, 1940 it exploded a second time. So obviously he was seeing something which other people were not seeing. But what is it? What is that message? And there are several aspects of it. And the most fundamental aspect is the oneness of things. At the heart of everything, there is a oneness. On the surface, physically, we're all different. One person is different from another. The parents are different even from their children. They may be the same family, they may come from the same generation, but they are all, each one is different. So, on the surface, there's no doubt these differences are there. And then intellectually, there are untold differences. People are not, even if they have the same background, the same general outlook, they will all still be different. But the fundamental fact remains that the knowers of Brahman clearly see is that oneness, there is a oneness that underlies all diversity. You can think of it in a way, one way of looking at it is, there's a movie is going on, the screen is showing all sorts of exciting things, but what is it that relates all these things? What is it that brings unity to all the things that are on that screen? The fact is, the screen is the unity. But the screen, when you're watching a movie, you don't see the screen at all. You're totally absorbed in the movie. The action, the excitement captures us, but we don't know what it really is that captures us. What is the essence, the reality of what we are captivated by? The essence, the reality is nothing but a piece of cloth. When you turn the light on after as say in the middle of the movie, someone turns the light on and switches the projector off, all you see is a piece of cloth. So that fancy universe that you were dreaming of, seeing supposedly on the screen was not there at all. The reality of that universe was just a piece of cloth. This is the basic statement of Vedanta. The reality of what we see, the essence of what we see, the core of all these differences, no matter how or where these differences are observed, how intense they are, how world-shaking these differences are, really, there is a reality which, when the light of knowledge of that reality comes on, this whole universe disappears, just like the movie disappears when you turn on the light and you see the screen as being the essence of what is really there. In that same sense, the knowers of Brahman, when they become absorbed in Brahman, all this diversity is seen as nothing but Brahman, consciousness, existence, consciousness, joy. Okay, so we see, what is this? What is this one? First, the Upanishads talk about this oneness, sarvam khalidam brahma, from the Chandogya Upanishad. All this, sarvam, khalu, indeed, idam, this, all this indeed is Brahman. Okay, that's fine, but what is Brahman? That is what we have to study. That should be the real subject of our study. The real subject of our study should not be how mechanical things operate or how psychological events take place. The psychology of one thing forces another psychology to appear. All these things, they are important as phenomenological studies. But what is the real essence of it? The real essence is, what is that basis on which all these things occur? What is that screen on which this movie is seen? And that screen is said to be Brahman. Now Brahman is just a name. Sarvam Khalidam Brahma. What is this Brahman? That is our big homework. If we have any homework to do in this whole world, from the day we're born until the day we die, that's the only homework we have. Find out, what is this Brahman? You can say everything is Brahman, but if you have not experienced it, what is it that you're looking for? What is this essence that you're trying to find? The Kathopanishad, yadeveha tadamutra, what is here? Yad iva iha, what indeed is here? Tadamutra, that is also over there. What is over there, that also is here. Now, whatever is here in my immediate vicinity, that also is elsewhere. So there is no difference between what I experience here and what others experience there, or what I could experience there. There's no difference. Mrityo samrityum apnoti, from death, mrityoho. He mrityum apnoti, he reaches again death. So going from death to death, who does that? Who goes from death to death? Ya iha nana iva pashyati. Who here sees, as it were, sees multiplicity. This is one of the most perceptive statements in the Upanishads, that there is the fact that we glory. In fact, all of our schooling from the time we're in grade school through graduate school is to carefully note the difference between one thing and another, to characterize certain things this way, certain other things that way. The characterization, the noticing of difference is one of the key elements of education. But that's also one of the key elements in this pursuit of ignorance, which is our basic problem. This is what keeps the truth from our great intensity of trying to see the differences, minutely detecting the differences between things. That's very good for scientific purposes, for business purposes, for all these things. That's fine, no problem, no argument. But as far as the basics of our life are concerned, that is exactly the wrong direction. The effort should be trying to find the oneness between things. In fact, the intense yearning to see differences between things is at the core of all the trouble in this world. It's exactly the opposite should be done, should be turned 180 degrees around. And who is going to start doing that? We have to start doing that. We can't say, okay, the world should turn around and start looking for unity rather than diversity. Well, we can say that, but it's just like whistling into the wind. It has no effect whatsoever. But where can we have an effect? On ourselves. If we start looking for unity instead of diversity, our whole life will be changed. Our whole concept of reality will be changed. It's the idea of what we really need to do is to find what is the unity between things, what is the commonality, what is the common factor. And when we reach the bottom of that, spiritual practice is exactly that. When you concentrate your mind in meditation, you're trying to discover a reality within yourself, which is different from the physical and the psychological parts of your being. It interpenetrates them, it may support them, but that's not what you're looking for. You're trying to slow down all of these perceptions and let that which is within you, which is fundamental, come to the surface so that you're able to experience it. That is the purpose of meditation. And that oneness is the answer to the world's problems as well as to our own problem, if there is any one answer. That the basic reality in this universe is the oneness between things, not the looking at the differences. So that is one thing that Swami Vivekananda very much emphasized. So also, the Kathopanishad puts it also in different ways. Swami Vivekananda put it this way: human beings do not go from error to truth, but from truth that is lower to truth that is higher. You can't say that a person's path is totally wrong Each person has their own path which they've developed according to their own necessities, and they may be looking at things in a way that can be improved, but the basic thing that everyone is looking for is that oneness, that underlying reality. If you call it God or call it Brahman, then you've got all religions can fall under that umbrella. The point is, how do you do that? And that's where the difference in practice comes. So, but this is the idea. Human beings do not go from error to truth, but from truth that is lower to truth that is higher. But there's a corollary to that. If you restrict, an attempt to restrict truth to fit only one group, one idea, one philosophy, inevitably distorts it and misuses it and has various untoward consequences. Truth is that which should not be and cannot be restricted. If you try to artificially restrict truth to one thing, one group, one idea, one philosophy, inevitably things become distorted. And that is the problem. So what is the solution? To open up that inquiry so that that oneness is emphasized. Another thing that Swami Vivekananda much declared is, as deep as the ocean, as broad as the sky, and there are no real boundaries. So in the ocean of our life lie nuggets of wisdom that are usually covered, and it's our job to try to uncover them. But his idea of no boundaries, that the boundaries between people, boundaries between religions, boundaries between different ways of thinking, the commonality, the common factor should be understood. That is true globalization. If we want globalization only on an economic front, then we run into all sorts of distortions and problems. But true globalization comes from this, seeing that there is truth in everything, that every expression of truth, every version of truth, every glimpse of truth that anyone has is a spark from that same reality. It may be distorted by being limited, by not being as broad as it should, by not being as deep as it should. But every aspect of reality, every discovery of reality is a discovery of that underlying truth, which is God or Brahman. So the point is that all of this should be made as broad as possible. Each person becomes his or her own church in that sense. Swami Vivekananda also made this statement that it is good to be born in a church, but it is deplorable to die in one. That's not exactly the way he put it, but that's the idea, that we should grow, that the young plant, when we start out the process, in order to be able to start in the investigation, we put certain boundaries on ourselves. Every investigation, every scientific investigation that is done is certain boundaries to the study are immediately stated. This will go this far and not enter into territory beyond, so that it restricts the amount of study, the amount of work that is involved. So each person will restrict himself and herself to their own religion, to their own way of doing things, to their own philosophy. But the whole point is that that should be seen as a practical necessity, not a theoretical necessity. Practically, we have to do that in order to be able to make any progress at all. But really, all these, every human activity, every expression of human genius, every expression of human intelligence and thought is a spark from the inner fire, is an expression of divinity. It is divinity coming out. It is God within that is trying to come up and urges development from within. And that development is then translated by our customs, by our upbringing, by our the things that we are used to, the expressions that we are used to. This is translated into action. And each action will be separate. There'll be different people will look at things in different ways. But these are all parts of the same truth. There is one truth, one reality, which is Brahman, which is the infinite and the eternal, the inexpressible that underlies all reality. And it has infinite expressions. And all expressions are coming from that same. Sometimes the expressions are extremely distorted and bring their own consequences. But the power that is coming up, that is bubbling up within each one, is the power of the Spirit of the infinite. There is no other power. We don't draw our energy from anything else. Then another emphasis that Swami Vivekananda insisted on is give the whole truth to all now. In other words, there are some tendencies to restrict the amount that you shouldn't tell everything to everyone because it may confuse them. That is good for children who are in school and they're in the first grades. You don't want to give a third grade child something that really he won't understand until he gets 2 or 3 years down the line, because it would be useless. But this is the fundamental reality that underlies all of our existence. And that fundamental reality should be told. We are, in essence, divine. The basic nature of everything is divinity. Now, this brings each person will emphasize that according to their own, will take this and use it according to their own methods, and there becomes a very ancient ideal called the Ishta Devata, the chosen ideal. Each person approaches truth in his or her own way. But what we are approaching is the manifestation of truth that we see in front of us. The truth itself, the underlying reality, is not any different. It manifests in certain ways. We start by being absorbed in these manifestations. But the background of all manifestations, the background of all truth, is that one reality, is the one life, the one essence that activates the whole of existence. So each person, in that sense, each person becomes his or own church. Because no single church, no single religion can cover all aspects of all its worshippers. So every worshipper will take whatever he or she can absorb of that central truth and specialize it to his or her own life. But it is all taken from the same source. So again, the idea is the sameness, the basic underlying sameness. Sri Ramakrishna, this is one of the emphases of Sri Ramakrishna's life, that first of all, the basic reality is everyone is going toward truth. No one is progressing the other way. Everyone, that is the basic assumption. It may appear from the outside that a person is going up and down, is improving and then is deteriorating. We look at that from our own limited perspective. But all of this, whatever results from our struggles in this world, everything is a development that leads us toward God, toward the reality, toward infinity. We're doing it in our own way, and in doing that we may make mistakes and we may have detours, but these mistakes are not as such wrong. These are part of the necessary process, part of the necessary progress that we need to make in order to, for our own selves, we need to sometimes take the wrong road. Even though people tell us it's the wrong road, we insist on it. No, we will go that way, because this is how we learn. Sometimes you just learn only from experience. So whatever effect, whatever path a person takes, is eventually must reach that goal. There's nothing else. There's no other goal to be reached. And the inborn safety guard for all of this is that we will never be satisfied until we do reach the ultimate truth. And this is stated on the basis of the idea of reincarnation. Once you see, this was what Yama was answering to Nachiketas. Nachiketas was saying, after a person dies, some say that that person is no more. Others say, no, he still exists. And so Yama was pointing out, yes, there is existence. Now, then you're completely lost. See, if you once admit that reincarnation is a reality, there's no hope for you. Because until we reach that final goal, there's no release. Until we understand that we are the infinite, we are one with that reality, there's no release. Because there will be no satisfaction. And if there's no satisfaction, we will be cruising back and forth, round and round. So the idea is the sooner we learn that lesson, the better. So this is the basic outline, but the many things that Swamiji emphasized should be mentioned as part of his medicine for the world's diseases, that is spiritual diseases as well as physical. And one thing that he strongly emphasized was strength. Strength. And of course there's some marvelous quotes that as long as we believe ourselves to be even the least different from God, fear will remain with us. But when we know ourselves to be the one, fear goes. Of what one can we be afraid if we are the one? Those who are always downhearted and dispirited in this life can do no work. From life to life they come and go, wailing and moaning. The earth is enjoyed by heroes. This is the unfailing truth. Be a hero. Always say, I have no fear. Tell this to everyone. Have no fear. Fear is death, fear is sin, fear is hell, fear is unrighteousness, fear is wrong life. All the negative thoughts and ideas that are in this world have proceeded from this evil spirit of fear. Stand up, be bold, be strong. Take the whole responsibility on your own shoulders and know that you're the creator of your own destiny. All the strength and succor you want is within yourselves, therefore make your own future. There is nothing else. That is one of the prime things to learn, that there is nothing else outside ourselves except one thing. And to that thing we can always go for support and for help. This is the aspect of ourselves, the aspect of our own reality, which we call God, the merciful, the helpful, the essence of reality manifested in so many ways, the being who comes down as incarnations from time to time, the being who appears to us in so many ways as something outside of ourselves. That same being is within us. That same being is infinitely ever accessible. This is another aspect that Swamiji emphasized, that the help, the hand you're looking for in the darkness, to come to help you in the darkness, the hand that you see, the help that you get is your own. It is your own self, it is your own reality. So God, that infinite, that mind of infinite compassion, that is all within ourselves. We are that infinite, containing both all the positive and all the negative aspects of everything, are within ourselves, part of our own reality. And one of the sweetest and most helpful aspects of that is the divinity, the God, our chosen ideal, our help, that comes from within our own heart and helps us in this world. Even in this world, whenever we have trouble, whenever we have difficulties or conflicts of any type, that desperation within our own hearts calls up an infinite source of strength. You can say it's from within yourself. It is from within ourselves. But what is it? It is actually, as long as we feel ourselves to be limited, in need of help, it comes as God, as our Ishta, our chosen ideal. And its help is infallible. If you say, well, I try to pray to God, but the only answer I get is no, I don't get any help at all. No. If you really look into it, if you really look into your own practices, into your own heart, into your own needs, into your own yearnings, what is it that answers these yearnings? That deepest yearning from ourselves, from within ourselves, is answered. It's answered by a God who lives within our own hearts. But that God is also, is not only Brahman, is also the incarnation. It's also Jesus, it's Buddha. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, that's one of the fundamental statements that every Buddhist has to make. I take refuge in the Buddha. Of course, the Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, I take refuge in the Dharma. Well, why isn't Dharma enough? Sangam Sharanam Gacchami, I take refuge in the Sangha, in the order. We all take refuge in Sri Ramakrishna's order here in this particular society. And we take refuge in the law, yes. But why do the Buddhists say, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, I take refuge in Buddha? Because Buddha, the person, the enlightened one, Buddha is the enlightened one, which could be any enlightened one. The enlightened one is a reality. It's not something that you read about in a book. It's not something that you can only think about mentally and appeal to through prayer. That Buddha, or whatever the incarnation is a reality for all time. That Swami Vivekananda said Sri Ramakrishna has not given up the Ramakrishna form. The idea is that form, that need not only be Sri Ramakrishna, it's Buddha, it's Jesus, it's every incarnation. they don't give up that form actually as a form, not only as an abstract principle in our hearts, as Brahman within, as Atman within, they also exist externally as a source of help. We can take them out when we do worship in the temple. The idea is God is dwelling within, and we take God out, ask God to take his seat in the image. The image itself is nothing but metal or steel or photograph or whatever, but we infuse our own reality into that image. And then that reality which we have placed outside is what we pray to. Because we as human beings in our struggles, we need help. Even in the smallest things of life, we need help. One of our Swamis used to say, even if you need a parking space, God is to be called on to provide it. Now, he may say, what can I do? All spaces are taken, I don't know. But the point is, the Swami was saying that very jovially, but I mean, it actually illustrates a profound truth. That we say God is the only reality, we want to realize Brahman, but we're going to sit down in meditation and we're going to do this and we're going to pray and we're going to do all those things. Yeah, okay, but who is the we who's doing all of this? It's the little we. And that little we is what we're trying to get beyond. That little we is what we're trying to understand to its depth. What is that little we? What is that thing that reality that I see? That reality that I am totally surrounded with all the time? What is that reality? One aspect of that reality is our own divinity. That is the chosen ideal, the God of our worships, the God of our prayers. That is part of my reality. And so I can ask that God, that incarnation, that prophet, I can ask that being to manifest himself or herself and to help me. Where else am I going to look for help? Of course, I can call 911 and I get help. Yeah, we've tried that sometimes. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't get it. The point is, when you ask God for help, even in these simple things, even in these minor things, does a parent, a little child asks for a little piece of candy. The parent is going to say, no, absolutely not, under no circumstance do you go away, you don't deserve this, do much more, you have to do much more of this and that before I'll give you that candy. No, parents don't do that. The child wants candy, they'll give him the candy. I mean, it is some of the things that we're asking of God, even if they're simple and trivial things, are like that. They're just they're nothing. In the universal scheme of things, they're nothing. But in our own immediate daily necessity, they're huge. And just like for the child, that candy or whatever it is that it wants is a huge thing. So isn't God going to give that as well as spiritual liberation? Oh, no. God only gives spiritual liberation. He doesn't give anything else. That is not the case. All these things are accessible for us. In other words, that spiritual reality is the essence of our life, is the essence of our existence. God is true right here and now in every aspect. And he or she or it, whatever reality we're aiming for, that is the reality right now. It's the reality of everything. It's that which is real behind our prayer. It's the entity that is stimulating the prayer within us, and it's the entity also that satisfies the prayer. This infinity, our basic problem is that we ignore infinity. We try to find solutions to our problems through finite means. And to a certain extent we have to do that, no doubt. But not as a fundamental reality. As a fundamental reality for every little tiniest movement of our consciousness, God should be involved in every aspect of it. If we need something, it is to God that we should ask. Why should I go and ask my neighbor for something or my friends for something? I'll do that if I have to. But in and through my asking my neighbors and my friends, I'm considering that it is God embodied there that I'm approaching. God should be involved in every single need, every action of life. Pratibodha viditam. It is to be seen in every mentation. That is from the Kena Upanishad. So, these are one of the aspects of Swami Vivekananda. And it's an ancient message. It's not only a modern message for modern times. It's a message that applies to all times and all circumstances. Thank you. This has been the last lecture of the season, and we will be on summer recess beginning tomorrow, Monday, June 27th, through Saturday, September 17th. Lectures will resume on September 18th. In the interim, we will continue to have our Wednesday evening Vesper services at the temple. Additionally, there's a special program to which you are all invited. On Saturday, July 16th at 10 a.m., we will celebrate Guru Purnima, the day devoted to honoring the spiritual teacher. The program will include worship and meditation, devotional singing, a talk on the Guru Within by Swami Vivekananda, flower offerings by devotees, and a buffet luncheon. Childcare will be provided. There will also be an ongoing program called Spiritual Discussion with the Swami at our retreat at Olima during the summer. This program consists of meditation, spiritual readings, and questions and answers on spiritual topics. It is held on selected Saturdays at 10 a.m. at the Men's Retreat House. Although Swami Tattvamayana inaugurated the program, Swamis Vedananda and Asutoshananda have been holding the sessions, and the next session is scheduled for Saturday, July 9th, with Swami Vedananda. Following sessions will be held in August. Please check our website for further information. All are most welcome to attend. During the summer, the temple will be open from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. for those who wish to meditate. The bookshop will also be open its usual hours this summer, except for 3 weeks, from July 11th through August 1st, when it will be closed. The Sri Sarada Library will close today at 2:30 p.m. and reopen on September 18th when the regular lecture schedule resumes. You and your friends are cordially invited to attend our programs. As usual, after greeting our friends, there will be a question and answer session in Vivekananda Hall. Om Dhyau Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithivi Shanti Apo Shanti Roshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishwe Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Same Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace is in heaven, peace is in the sky, on the earth and in the waters. The herbs, the plants, and the trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. Everything in the universe is pervaded by peace. May that infinite universal peace enter our soul and being. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us all.